Do you want to figure out what is wrong with your Fiverr gig? Like, do you go back to your Fiverr gig and wonder why all of a sudden you're no longer getting clicks, people are no longer coming to your gig? In this video, I'm going to be telling you 3 ways in which you can assess your Fiverr gig and find out what is wrong with your gig. So basically, these are the 3 ways that I usually go back to figure out why a particular gig isn't performing. Okay, so if a particular gig usually performs and people are chatting you up, people are placing orders, and all of a sudden nothing, or you actually have a gig that ever since you created that gig, nothing. Now this is how you can know if that gig is doing well or what exactly is wrong with that gig. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm going to tell you exactly how you will find out what is wrong with in your gig, and the answer is impressions, click, and order. The answer is impression, click, and order. Yes. Now, those are the analytics, those are the features that Fiverr has given to me and to you. And they gave us this feature so that you can monitor your gig. So if you think that you've gotten everything you want, like you've gotten the answer, you can go ahead and leave the video. Or if you want me to explain exactly how I actually monitor my gigs, I mean, I'm telling you this because I monitor it most of the times once in 2 weeks, so that I'll be able to get enough information to act on. Okay, so if you want to know how I actually do this, how I actually implement this access, right, then stay back. And if you've not followed me, please follow me, click on the subscribe button. Let's get right into it. So for this particular video, we're going to have an imaginary client, and his name is Mark. Mark is my target audience. Fast forward to impressions, right? What are impressions? Simply put, impressions are just the number of people who view your gig card whenever it pops up on a search query. Like, those are just the number of people who view your gig card. And so I want you to know that impressions equals awareness. Those are the number of people who have at least seen something that concerns you. Okay, so along the line, we're going to tell you where Mark comes into all this situation, into all this thing that we're talking about. If your gig card, what is a gig card? Yeah. So a gig card is like when you go onto Fiverr. I believe I'm talking to people who have actually visited the platform of Fiverr, right? So when you go onto Fiverr and type anything, say you type logo, those things you see, those boxes, right, that looks like card that you see that are square shapes of people's gigs, those are gig cards. So now, if Mark goes onto Fiverr and types logo, right, will he see me in that first page, in the second page, in the third page of the search query? If he sees me, what will he see, right? Are you with me? Now, he will see various gig cards, right? Mark will see various gig cards, including my gig. And some of the information that he's going to see on those gig cards, the information that he's going to see on those gig cards are names of people in their different gig cards, the image, the gig title, and the number of reviews. Now, these are the 4 things that show up in every gig title. If Mark stumbles upon my gig card and he sees my name, the image that I've used, the gig title, and the number of reviews that I've had, will Mark be impressed? Now, ask that question. Ask yourself that question. So notice that not just one person doesn't show up. The page is supposed to be filled up if you type on logo with different key cards of different people. So now, why will Mark leave the first person, second person, and focus on me, right? Who is the third key card that he sees? Why will Mark leave me and go to some other person that has a better attractive gift card? It's because the person's gift card is more attractive, right? And those attractive features are based upon those 4 things that I mentioned. That is the name, the gig title, the image, and the number of reviews. And this is just the first thing. Now, these are the 4 things that we have to go back, right, and tweak just to be able to make sure that when someone comes up and searches something that is related to us, if they see just our gig card, it should be convincing enough for the person, Mark in this situation, to do what? To click on us. So when it comes to name, we're going to take this one by one. When it comes to name, yes, some names can buy you, especially when the name that you're giving out there, your Fiverr name, I mean, Fiverr username, when the name has something to do with something racist or sexual, illegal, or something that's not perceived as okay so in the society, right? So if your name is tilting towards that, example, if your name is Sexy Bootylicious Printer or Sexy Bootylicious Cynthia, for example, sorry if your name is Cynthia, and you have a gig and your gig talks about how you're a very good graphics designer, it's contradicting what you say you are, because your name is sort of a name that people use on certain websites. You get what I mean? right? But your gig is saying something else. So you should try as much as possible to either use your name or use something that relates to what you're doing. I usually don't like using something that relates. For example, if you're a graphics designer and you use the username Unye Designs or Design Graphic here, or the name of your company is Design Graphics here. The reason why I don't like those type of names is that sometimes it restricts you, because sometimes you might want to actually move on and move on to another gig, and the gig has nothing to do with design, and then you're stuck with that particular name, right? So I just prefer use your name. If possible, use the first, last, find a way to use a name, and I think that works. So that's that for name. Now the second thing I'm going to talk about is image, right? The image you use matters a lot with the gig. If you're someone whose gig is in the visual space, visual art space, it is best, I would advise you to use an image that depicts your work. If your gig is not in that space, in a space that is visual, right, then please use your face. Use your face. I don't care if you're black, white, Indian, from the Philippines, use your face and smile. Smile. It always works. It has helped me it has helped me in a very long time right now. So I feel like the image is very, very important. Now, thirdly, is the gig title. Now, I'm not here to talk about SEO, but I believe as a Fiverr person, you know what SEO is. So I'm just going to give you a trick to how I do it, right? Whatever it is you're doing on Fiverr, say you're a graphics designer, and the type of graphics you design are flyers, say wedding flyers, that's your niche, right? Just go on to Fiverr as a buyer, type wedding flyers. You see those first people that show up, even if you don't show up on that page, study them. Study the first 20 people that show up on that page and figure out what the first three keywords, what's the first three common keywords in all of their gigs are. Make sure you insert it in your own gig title. Find a way to insert it. I don't care. Find a way to insert it, right? That's just the trick. I'm not going to dwell on that. If you have more questions about it, you can put it in the comment section. But this is just the simplest trick, right? Now, fourth, number of reviews. This is not really your fault. I mean, if you don't have any reviews, it's not your fault. But if you have reviews, it means that when Mark wants to buy from you, Mark will feel like, I mean, four people have bought from this and they didn't give any bad review. Then I feel like I can trust myself, or I can trust that this person will be able to deliver, right? So that's what reviews really do. And it just shows the number of reviews. So the higher your number of reviews, the more attractive your gig card is. So if you have a good name that supports your gig, you have a good gig title with good SEO words, yes, and if you had a good image and high number of reviews, your gig card becomes more attractive. So stick to that, and we're going to go on to the second one. Now, a pro tip before I go on to the second one is this. What I do, remember when I said that I usually go to my gig every 14 days to monitor my analytics, right? Remember, we're all talking about analytics. I go back every 14 days to monitor it. If I notice these things and I tweak these four things that I talked about, I go back in the next 14 days. I screenshot what I already have with the previous information I already have, and I tweak it and change it to what I have currently, screenshot it, and wait to go back in the next 14 days. The reason is because I want to compare what has happened in that next 14 days. Did I get higher impressions? Remember, we're still talking about the impressions right now. Did I get higher impressions with my last information, or did I get higher impressions now? If I got higher impressions now, it means that what I have is working. If I got higher impressions earlier, it means I'm going to change it back to what I had earlier and work on the next thing, which is click. So now we're going to talk about click. Now, remember our friend Mark. If Mark sees my gig card and likes and is attracted to my gig card, the next thing he's going to do is click on me, right? Click on my gig card or open in another tab like I usually do. So now, when Mark opens my gig card in another tab, what does Mark see? Mark gets to see a whole lot of information, much more information than he used to see or he had seen earlier. So what are clicks? So based on the Fiverr analytics, the number on the clicks are just the number of people who've clicked on your gig card that showed up on a particular search query, right? So the impressions are the number of people that saw it in that page, in whatever page that you fell into, whether you're in the first page or the second page or the last page. But the clicks are the number of people who actually clicked on it, which means I usually equate clicks to what? Interest. Yes, yes. This is a funnel, I guess. So let's talk about clicks and interest. So I'm going to read this off of my computer, and we're going to talk about what Mark will see when he clicks on my gig card. So when Mark clicks on my gig card, he will see more images, he will see different packages, he will see gig description, he will see individual reviews and ratings, he will see about the seller and he'll see other recommendations. I actually put other recommendations so that you see that Fiverr is not just your page, right? You're actually recommending other people in case they are not interested in, they are not convinced on your whatever it is you have right there. So you want to make sure that you capture them before they see the other recommendation. Okay. So we'll take this one after the other. If Mark finally clicks on my gig, right, my gig card, and comes into that space where he sees all of this information and finally does not order, what went wrong? Those are the questions we're going to be answering, or this is the question that we're going to be answering in addition, talking about the other features that we just mentioned, right? So if he does not order, then something went wrong with all of this, the images that he saw, the gig description, the reviews and the ratings, something went about the seller, something went wrong. So we start from images, more images. So probably the primary image, the primary image, the first image that shows up when someone, searches you, right? That comes up in your gig card. If that particular gig, that image is very attractive and the other ones are not supporting that particular image, then it's usually very off-putting, right? So you have to make sure that the supporting images that you have are not blank. They are images that are supporting that particular first image. Now, remember I talked about if your gig is actually a visual gig or a gig that's not visual, right? So in the case where you have a visual gig and you're a graphics designer or you're a signature writer or you're a logo designer or I don't know, any of the graphics, the things that have to do with visual arts, right? You have to make sure that you have other varieties of maybe work that you've done, right? Whether you've done for other people or just illustrations that you've done for yourself or you just put up there. So that particular image, I think we have up to maximum of 5 images, should serve as your portfolio. So even if you have 30 images, find a way to add them into one image, not just 30. Maybe you can divide it into 10 for each image, for each graphic, or five for each graphic. So they should serve as something that just to show how versatile you are. So I know that on Fiverr there are different types of logo makers. I know there are those who say that they do cursive logos. So those kind of logos that seem as if it's cursive handwriting. There are some people who that is their niche on Fiverr, right? So if these other images, they use other variations of cursive logos that they've created to fill up that space, then that will show the mark that this person actually has experience and they've done all these things, right? But if you just keep on putting write-ups and logo design, clinical design, clinical, it will do you no good, right? It will do you no good. Now, I'm now going to talk about people whose gigs on Fiverr are not usually visual. So in the case where you're a virtual assistant, what do you do? I know the first thing you can do is to put a write-up about the gig that you actually offer. I don't do that, but people do it, and I think it works out for them. What I do is I put on my face. I put on my face. I put on in the other images, I put on screenshots of reviews that I've gotten, whether they're on Fiverr or whether they're off of Fiverr. Those are what fills up the next images. Yes. Now, the other thing that people are going to see is your different packages. If your packages are not convincing enough, the mark is no longer going to be interested in you. If your packaging, like your basic package, your standard package, and your premium package is not convincing enough, not competitive enough, mark is going to leave you. When I mean your packaging, it includes your pricing, includes what you intend to give in, for each of those prices, right? So if you don't make it competitive, then he's no longer going to be interested. So what do? Remember, take that advice I gave, go to other people's packages and see what they are doing and get inspiration from them. It's different if you are an established Fiverr seller. You have gigs, you have reviews. I don't care if you're a new seller or a level 1 or level 2. Once you have reviews, you are sort of established, right? You have an edge. So it's different from someone who's just starting, who doesn't have no reviews. You don't compete, you don't compare yourself with those people, right? So you don't just put the prices they put, because even if you are the best person in your country, right? So we move over to the next one, which is gig description. Your gig description is where you spend all of your time explaining and convincing that client mark that you can deliver. Take your gig description as a sales page. Take it as a sales page with less stories, right? Take it as a sales page with less stories. So you're listing out all of the things you intend to do, and you're doing this because you know that this person does not have the time to read stories. So you want to be as clear as possible. Keep it clear as possible. Explain in details as much as possible. If your gig description is not quite explanatory, then Mark is not going to be interested. Because guess what? It's a competition out there. Some other people have better descriptions than you. And so Mark would rather go with someone who seems to know what they are doing than you, right? Whose gig description is shrouded in mystery. Okay, so the next is the individual reviews. If you have individual reviews, like people who've given you reviews, they are going to show up. At least one of the review is going to show up, and the person can click on view more and see other reviews, right? And so if you actually do have reviews, it's an added advantage for you, especially if the reviews are good reviews. I mean 5.0, 4.9, 4.8, those are good reviews. But if you have bad reviews, then it's really going to take a miracle to be able to get someone to overlook that and order, right? So if once you start getting clients, try as much as possible to serve them well. If at some point something went wrong, right? And it was not your fault, or even if it was your fault, and for some reason the client isn't satisfied, try as much as possible to explain this to the client. If possible, promise something else just to be able to get a good review, right? Just to be able to get a good review. Because once you start getting bad reviews, Fiverr will start, it will affect the way Fiverr promotes you. It means that people don't like you. So Fiverr will start taking you either off of the first page, right? And taking you down, down the page or next page. And if people like if people leave you good reviews, then Fiverr will promote you, take you top of the page, because they know that if you take it top of the page, you're likely going to make more sales and they are going to get their cut. So what Fiverr wants to do is that they want to make their money. So they're not going to go spend time promoting people who will bring them back bad market, right? So the next thing Fiverr is the next thing Mark is going to see is about the seller. Now I'm going to say this in the sense that, of course, we know what about the seller is. It's in your gig profile where you take time and explain yourself, right? It's in your gig profile or gig setting where you take time and explain yourself. Now, if you're someone who wants to do different types of gigs, which are actually not in the same industry, you have to be careful with your about seller, because you see how it shows up in that page. That about seller should say or should depict you as an expert in that gig. So for example, when I didn't know anything, my about seller, because at that point I started YouTube. If you go down to my YouTube page, you see when I was doing YouTube interviews, right? And I was a YouTube interviewer and I was also a virtual assistant, right? And so my about was like, I am a YouTube interviewer, like I have a podcast and I'm an entrepreneur. I graduated from Kiniko. Like, who sent me? Because while that information is true, is genuine, it is in no way beneficial to Mark because it doesn't support my virtual assistant expertise. So if I'm a virtual assistant, my about the seller should have something to do with, hey, I'm on here, I'm a very charismatic person, easy to work with. I have experience as a virtual assistant for 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So I would love to work with you, blah 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 blah. So even though I didn't use that as my cover letter, but then I use that as kind of warming up to people and telling people that yes, I'm a human being and I have experience in what. So when they see that, okay, my gig is talking about virtual assistant and about seller is that, oh, she has maybe I have experience in being an administrative assistant for 10 years, then it means that, oh, the person knows, okay, imagine this, if I'm a graphics designer and I do logos on Fiverr and I have, say, 10 years experience in working as a product designer, right, in my company in Nigeria. Now that will kind of give credit to my gig, right? Or I studied art. I studied some sort of visual art or some sort of art that kind of supports. Then you see that works. But if your school has nothing to do with the gig you're doing, please don't add it there. Let's move on. So now, Fiverr now puts other recommendations after all of this at the bottom. And this is because Fiverr doesn't really care about me and you. They care about making their money. So the idea is that since Mark has entered that platform, Fiverr, they want to make sure Mark buys something, whether they buy from you or they buy from me. So the idea is that when Mark goes down and reads everything you have there on your profile, on your gig, on your space, and Mark still doesn't feel quite convinced to take an action, they are telling Mark, hey, Mark, we have other options for you, right? So you want to make sure that you have a very compelling gig description and other things to support your gig description. Okay, so let's look at this holistically. If you have 1,000 gig impressions and you have 10 clicks, where is the problem from? From all these things I've said, where is the problem from? Definitely the problem is from your gig card. So you want to go back to that gig card and touch on your image, gig title, name, and well, you can't do anything about reviews. But the ones that you can do something about, then please do. Okay. Now, if you have 1K impressions and you have, say, 100 clicks in 30 days, then and you don't have any order, what is wrong? It means yes, people are aware of you, people are interested because they click, but something keeps them from ordering, which means something keeps them from ordering. So something in your gig description or the remaining part of the images is just not convincing enough. Something is not competitive enough, compelling enough for Mark to buy from you. Okay, so let's move over to the next one. Now, before we move over to orders, there's something I want to talk about, and it's because I want us to be realistic, and it's called conversion rate. I know that in ads, running ads, I think conversion rate is usually 5%, 5 to 7%. The little I know about running ads, that's what I think it is for different industries, right? But it's usually 5%. What I want to say is about the gig, the impression versus the click versus the orders. I mean, you don't expect the 1,000 people that viewed your gig card to actually click to actually order. People have different reasons why they don't want to go with you. They have maybe cultural reasons. They have specific reasons. Maybe you're not in their niche, blah blah blah. And so we want to be as realistic as to say that if you have 1K impressions, you should have at least 50 clicks. I'm just giving as an example based on what I've seen, right? Now, if you have at least 50 clicks in a month, then you should have at least two orders. If you don't have at least one order in a month after having 50 clicks, something is wrong with your gig impression. You need to go back and do something about it. Okay, so let's move over to order. So, order means Mark is interested, Mark has been convinced, and Mark now wants to buy from you, right? So, the orders are the number of people who actually purchase your products, right? And buy what it is yourself, purchase your service rather, because this is Fiverr. And so now in this case, if people are not ordering from you, then you want to go back and check two things: your gig description, your pricing. Your gig description, your pricing. You want to be very, very strategic about these two things, because most times people don't buy because they feel that you're not convincing enough for the price you're giving, not because they don't have the money, but because for what you've written that you actually want to deliver, they don't think is worth that price, right? Because they feel they can get a better deal somewhere. So I want us to take note of something. I want us to take note of something. And this is something that I've noticed from my industry, right? There are seasons. So for my gigs, there are months where I actually make a whole lot of money. There are months where I don't make a whole lot. Like I'm even grateful if I see one order. Not because, well, right now depends on where you are, right? Depends on where you are. But there are seasons on Fiverr. So if you just started Fiverr, you just have to take it slow. Be very observant. Try to see how things are working out for you. But if you've stayed at least 1 year on Fiverr and you've made few, maybe you're still a new seller or you've graduated up to level one. Try to understand the seasons, right? Try to understand the psychology behind people buying your business. For example, every beginning of the year, people come up with new resolutions. They want to start a new business. They want to start a new side hustle. Therefore, there's usually high demand for people in the branding industry, branding, marketing, because people want to do logos, people want to build websites for their new business ideas. Now, for people in the event industry, I'm going to tell you because I'm in that industry on Fiverr. There are certain types of times of the years that I get a very high surge in clients, and I'm talking about during the holidays, because now people have time to time away from their 9 to 5 jobs to now organize and host and plan and execute a particular event that they've had in a very long time, like a reunion or a conference or blah blah blah, or even their side business event, right? So that being said, if you want me to do any video or answer any questions, just put it in the comment section. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. I plan to make many more videos this year, and tell me what you feel about this whole topic or anything. So if you also have friends who are struggling with Fiverr, struggling with their Fiverr gigs, try to share them this video. This is what I use, but I feel like this is what's going to actually help them navigate this whole Fiverr thing. Okay, thank you and bye.